The last October sunlight catches the leaded glass windows of Aunt Carol's Charleston mansion. It throws sparkles across the pristine white columns. I stand on the wraparound porch, my leather satchel heavy against my hip. I listen to the sounds of laughter drifting through the window panes. My fingers smooth the lapel of my professorial blazer. I check for non-existent wrinkles. A burst of particularly loud laughter makes my hand pause on the brass doorbell. Inside, someone mentions Madison's name. This is followed by the unmistakable twitter of Aunt Carol's social laugh, the one she reserves for particularly impressive achievements. The door swings open before I can press the bell. Mother stands there in her pearl gray cocktail dress. A flute of champagne is already in her hand. Her smile tightens at the corners when she sees me. "Charlotte." She steps back, gesturing me inside with a wave that manages to be both graceful and dismissive. "You're late." Traffic on I-95. I step into the foyer. The scent of gardenias and furniture polish wraps around me like an expensive stranglehold. "Everyone's in the parlor," Mother says, already turning away. "Madison was just telling us about her summer internship." Of course she was. I follow Mother down the hallway past the portraits of dead men. They probably would have disapproved of me too. The click of my sensible heels on hardwood is drowned out by the swell of voices from the parlor. And then the senior partner said I had real potential. My brother Brian's daughter Madison's voice carries through the doorway. He thinks I could make junior partner by year 3. She breaks off as I enter. For a fraction of a second, something flickers across her face. But then Brian's arm tightens around her shoulders and the moment passes. "Look who finally made it," my brother Brian announces to the room. He raises his scotch in my direction. "The other Monroe who went north." "Still alive, I see." A few relatives titter politely. Grandmother Margaret doesn't even look up from her needlepoint. "Charlotte is teaching at Princeton," Mother explains to Cousin Sarah's new husband. Her tone suggests I run a particularly unsuccessful dog walking service. Well, it's a prestigious university, but there's a difference between being on the teaching side and the learning side, you know. Not everyone can truly shine. "Now, Madison, tell us more about that partner's yacht party," Aunt Carol interjects. I sink onto the edge of an antique settee, sliding my satchel beneath it. Inside, the latest issue of the Princeton Literary Review peeks out. My name is listed under distinguished contributors. I push it deeper into the bag. "Some of us are truly valuable people," my brother Brian stage whispers to Uncle Robert. "Teaching is just what society's losers do." What a waste of taxpayers' money. The room erupts in laughter. Crystal champagne flutes tinkle with malicious amusement. "That's exactly right." Grandmother finally looks up. Her steel gray eyes sweep past me as if I'm part of the furniture. "Princeton may be prestigious, but being on the teaching side means nothing. The learning side is where the value lies. It's embarrassing to have a teacher in the family at such a distinguished institution. If you were in the same position, what would you do? When your family denies your worth as a person and treats your profession as a burden on society, how would you fight back? What happens next will shock you beyond imagination. Please share your thoughts in the comments. The dinner of humiliation. Let's have a toast first, Aunt Carol announces from the doorway. She raises her glass. "To our family's true Princeton star." Glasses rise around the room. Madison's smile shows confusion for just a moment. But then the family chorus begins. To Madison, I'm directed to the far end of the mahogany dining table. I'm seated between Cousin Timothy's 7-year-old and an empty chair. That's where the gardener sits during our holiday meals. Madison had the seat of honor next to Grandmother Margaret. I was so far away, we might as well have been on different planets. My literature professor is so demanding, Madison says halfway through the soup course. Her voice carries down the table. She expects us to actually analyze the text instead of just appreciating it. People who can't do become teachers, dear. Grandmother Margaret interrupts. She pats Madison's hand. Don't let her discourage you. You have a real future. Madison's eyes find mine across the candlelight and fine china. For a heartbeat, I see something like understanding pass between us. Then Brian launches into another story about his latest business venture. Something about cryptocurrency and yacht timeshares. The moment evaporates like morning fog over Charleston Harbor. I sit silently, watching my family bask in the glow of Madison's borrowed brilliance. I think of the paper sitting in my grading pile back at Princeton. The one with her name at the top, full of superficial analysis and inherited charm. The one I failed. Aunt Carol's silver dessert cart rolls across the hardwood floors. It bears an elaborate cream brulee with fresh berries arranged in concentric circles. The candlelight catches the sugar crystals, transforming them into tiny diamonds. Madison's favorite, Aunt Carol announces. She positions the cart between Grandmother Margaret and my cousin. I remember how she always begged for this when she visited during college breaks. My brother Brian reaches across the table for the serving spoon. Speaking of college, have you thought about law school applications yet? Dad always said you had the mind for it. The porcelain dessert plates click against the mahogany table as the butler distributes them. Each one bears the Monroe family crest in faded gold leaf. I trace the worn edge with my fingertip. I remember how Father used to tell me stories about the brave women in our family tree. To Madison's brilliant future, Grandmother Margaret raises her crystal goblet. The overhead chandelier creates a constellation of light points across her pearls. To the success our family deserves, Mother beams, her third glass of wine lending extra warmth to her cheeks. Not everyone can handle Princeton's pressure, but our Madison was born for it. Some of us are meant to succeed. Uncle Robert's voice carries down the table. He pauses, swirling his brandy. Others, well, they teach. The family titters. A fork scrapes against bone china. The butler's shoes whisper across the oriental carpet. Interesting. My voice emerges quieter than I intended, but it cuts through the laughter like a letter opener through heavy cream paper. Because I'm Madison's professor. The silence drops like a leather-bound volume in an empty library. Forks freeze midair. Wine glasses pause at lips. Mother's face strains to the shade of her best linen tablecloth. My brother Brian's mouth hangs open, displaying the half-chewed remains of his cream brulee. Madison takes a deep breath and straightens her shoulders with resolve. It's the same breath I recognize from our office hours. The one she takes before defending a difficult thesis statement. Professor Monroe, her voice carries the same steady tone she used in last week's class presentation. She teaches literature and critical thinking. It's a required course for freshmen. Grandmother Margaret's hand trembles. Red wine splashes onto the tablecloth, blooming like a rose in snow. Charlotte, explain yourself. Her voice shakes. I set down my napkin, folding it precisely along its creases. I'm an associate professor in the comparative literature department. Madison enrolled in my section this semester. I maintain strict professional boundaries with all my students. The words come easily after years of faculty meetings, including family members. Madison pushes her untouched dessert away. Professor Monroe gave me the first C of my life on my initial paper. You what? Brian slams his glass down. Wine sloshes over the rim. The analysis was superficial. I meet his glare steadily. Like most first attempts from students who've never had to think deeply about literature. You could have helped her more. Mother's voice cracks. Given her extra guidance. She did. Madison straightens in her chair. More than anyone. She made me actually work for once. This is outrageous, Uncle Robert stands. His chair scrapes back. Using your position to deliberately make things harder for family. No, Madison's voice rings out. The room stills. She made me better. She was the only one who did. Cousin Erica leans forward, her reading glasses glinting. I think it's admirable. Teaching requires real integrity. I didn't know it was her until I saw her photo in my dorm. Madison looks around the table. On the department website. She never said a word about being family. Uncle James catches my eye from the far end of the table. His slight nod carries the weight of 30 years teaching high school mathematics. Well, Grandmother Margaret dabs at the wine stain with trembling fingers. I suppose we'll need to speak with the department chair about reassignment. No. Madison pushes back her chair. The legs scrape against hardwood with a sound like fingernails on silk. I'm staying in Professor Monroe's class. I've learned more in 8 weeks than in 4 years of private school. Darling, Mother reaches for Madison's arm. Think about your future. Madison's voice carries the same conviction she showed defending her midterm thesis. For the first time, I'm actually thinking. Not just performing. The silence stretches. Outside, autumn leaves scrape against leaded glass windows. The butler hovers in the doorway, uncertain whether to clear the abandoned desserts. I fold my hands in my lap, feeling the steady thrum of my pulse against grandmother's pearl ring. The one father gave me when I earned my doctorate. Madison's latest paper showed remarkable improvement, I say. She's developing a unique, critical voice. But what about family loyalty? Brian demands. Loyalty? Madison's laugh holds no humor. Like when you told everyone at the club about Charlotte's rejection from Harvard Law? The one she never actually applied to because she was already accepted to Columbia for her PhD. Mother's wine glass tips. Dark liquid seeps into white linen like blood on snow. The grandfather clock in the hall strikes 9. Each chime echoes through the silence. I think of my office back at Princeton, where Madison's latest paper sits in my grading pile. The one where she finally found her voice. The one that earned her first A. I believe this concludes dessert. I stand, smoothing my blazer. Madison, I'll see you in class on Monday. We're discussing Virginia Woolf's concept of the inheritance of anger. As I turn to leave, I catch Madison's reflection in the dark window. For the first time tonight, she's smiling. The cost of truth, I sit in my car and drive home. During the drive, I think about the first time I graded her work during midterms. Madison's first paper had sat untouched on my desk for 3 days. The Monroe family crest at the top of the page caught the fluorescent office light. It was hand-drawn in the corner with a kind of casual artistry that came from years of practice at garden parties. Below it lay 12 pages of superficial charm and inherited confidence. I uncapped my red pen. Later that day, after the results were out, my office door creaked open. Madison stood in the threshold, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. My feedback was clutched in her manicured hands. The paper trembled. Is this some kind of joke? Her voice cracked on the last word. A C-? I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Sit down, Madison. She sank into the leather seat. Her pink cashmere sweater bunched around her shoulders. The paper landed between us with a soft thud. Your analysis of Woolf's stream of consciousness technique was surface level at best. I tapped the relevant paragraph. You spent more time describing her garden parties than examining her actual literary innovation. High school teachers said I had a natural gift for writing. For stating the obvious with perfect grammar, the words came out sharper than I intended. I softened my tone. Madison, you can coast on your name or actually learn something. Your choice. She stared at me. Really looked at me for the first time since walking into my classroom 3 weeks ago. Recognition flickered in her eyes. You're related to us, aren't you? Yes. Which changes nothing about your grade or my expectations. The phone on my desk lit up. Mother's number. I turned it face down. Madison's shoulders straightened. A flash of that inherited Monroe steel. I want to rewrite it. You have until Friday. She gathered her paper and stood, pausing at the door. Does the family know you're my professor? No. And I'd prefer to keep it that way. After she left, I pulled up her admissions file on my laptop. Perfect SAT scores. Glowing recommendations. A personal essay about overcoming adversity when her horse lost at a dressage competition. I closed the file and opened my gradebook instead. The whispers started in the faculty lounge a week later. The Monroe girl, Professor Wilson's coffee cup clinked against the counter. Certainly comes from good stock. Shame about her struggling in your class. Everyone struggles in my class. I stirred cream into my tea. That's how they learn. The department chair mentioned something about reviewing grading standards. Wilson's eyes met mine. For certain students, Princeton's pristine white halls suddenly felt very small. My phone buzzed that night as I graded papers in my empty apartment. Madison's name lit up the screen. I can't do this. Her voice was raw. Mother says I should switch professors. Someone more understanding. Understanding of what? That you're capable of more than you've been asked to give? Silence stretched between us. I'll see you tomorrow at office hours. The next morning, Madison arrived with dark circles under her eyes. She carried a completely rewritten paper. Her designer bag was smudged with ink. The strap was fraying where she'd worried it between her fingers. I wrote it 4 times. She pulled out the drafts. No family crest in sight. I kept hearing your voice saying, dig deeper. I read the first paragraph, then the second. By the third, something inside my chest loosened. Here was analysis. Here was actual thought. Here was a mind beginning to wake up. I looked up. This is writing. Really? She leaned forward, hope warring with exhaustion on her face. Yes. Now tell me about Wolf's use of temporal shifts in the dinner scene. Her eyes lit up. For the next hour, we dissected the text line by line. When she finally gathered her things to leave, she paused. I've never had to work this hard before, she twisted the strap of her bag. It feels different. Different how? Like I'm finally using my own voice instead of the one they gave me. After she left, I added her paper to my grading pile. Outside my window, autumn leaves skittered across the quad. My phone lit up with another call from Mother. I let it ring. Word spread through the freshman dorms. Soon Madison wasn't coming to office hours alone. She brought other students. Children of privilege struggling to find their own voices beneath the weight of expectations. We formed study groups, discussion circles, places where names and legacies didn't matter. Another assignment was brutal. A comparative analysis of modernist perspectives on class structure. When I handed back the papers, Madison's hands shook as she turned to the last page. E-. She stared at the grade, then at me. I earned this. Every word of it. That evening, I found a note slipped under my office door. Professor Monroe, for the first time in my life, I'm proud of something that's actually mine. Thank you for seeing past my name to who I could become. I pinned it to my bulletin board next to the faculty committee summons about my grading policies. Outside, the October wind rattled the windows, carrying the first hint of winter. Thanksgiving loomed on my calendar like a gathering storm. But for now, in this quiet office, as evening settled over campus, I watched another young woman discover her voice. Not the one her family gave her. Not the one society expected. Her own. The phone on my desk lit up again. Mother's number flashing like a warning. I let it ring. The path to liberation now. Almost a month later. The photo sits slightly askew in its simple silver frame on my Princeton office desk. Madison and I at the Modernist Literature Symposium. Both leaning toward the podium where Joan Didion spoke about self-respect. I straightened the frame, then returned to grading the stack of papers before me. My phone buzzes. Another text from Madison. What if I switched my major to comparative literature? The economics lectures feel hollow now. Like I'm just memorizing other people's thoughts. I set the phone down without responding. Let her sit with the question. Real decisions deserve silence. A knock at my door interrupts my grading rhythm. Office hours start at 2. I call out, not looking up from an analysis of Wolf's stream of consciousness technique. Not here for office hours, sis. Brian. I raise my head to find him filling my doorway in an expensive suit that still has the tags tucked inside the sleeve. His confident smile falters as he takes in my office. The walls of books. The framed academic journals. The window overlooking the historic quad. Nice view, he says, trying to sound casual. Better than that cubicle they stuck you in at William and Mary. That was 12 years ago, Brian. What do you want? He drops into the chair across from my desk, loosening his tie. Can't a brother check on his sister? Mom's worried about you, you know. All alone up here in the ivory tower. I have 70 students and 4 graduate assistants. I'm hardly alone. Speaking of students, he leans forward, lowering his voice. Madison's been talking about changing her major, throwing away all that economics preparation. Her father's livid. I shuffle my papers into a neat stack. Madison is legally an adult. Her academic choices are her own. Come on, Charlotte. We both know you've influenced her. All those little study sessions, those literary discussions. He spreads his hands with all his southern charm. Just encourage her to be more practical. That's all we're asking. Like you're practical. How's that cryptocurrency venture working out? His jaw tightens. Some of us try to build things. Create opportunities. Not everyone wants to hide behind books their whole life. My phone lights up again. Another text from Madison. Found my old journals from high school. Every entry was what they wanted to hear. Not one real thought. How did I not see it? I turn the phone face down. I think we're done here, Brian. I have papers to grade. Just think about what you're doing to the family. To Madison's future. He stands, adjusts his cuffs. Oh, and Aunt Carol wanted me to officially invite you to Thanksgiving, says Madison insisted. After he leaves, I open my email to find a message from the department chair. Subject line: Commendation for Exceptional Mentorship Program. I click delete without reading it. I don't need their praise. That evening, I make my monthly donation to the First Generation Scholars Fund. A small amount, but regular as sunrise. Then I open Madison's latest paper. The Performance of Success, Artifice, and Authenticity in Fitzgerald's Gatsby. My red pen hovers over the first paragraph. Strong thesis. Clear voice. No trace of the superficial analysis that marked her early work. I write excellent observation in the margin, then catch myself smiling. The next morning brings a flurry of notifications. Aunt Carol has tagged me in a Facebook post. So proud of our 2 Princeton women. The Monroe legacy of excellence continues. 3 months ago, she'd asked if I still worked at that community college up north. A text from Mother follows. Darling, what's your teaching schedule this semester? Thought I might drive up. See your classroom. If you're not too busy. I set my phone to silent and pull up the academic journal submission guidelines. Madison's research on gender roles in 19th century sensation novels shows promise. Time to list her as my research assistant. The days blur into weeks. Madison declines the family's autumn gathering to attend a Victorian literature conference with me. Mother starts asking hesitant questions about tenure-track positions over rushed coffee dates. Even my youngest cousin's email for advice about college applications. Then comes Madison's late-night call. Her voice is small, almost childlike. I'm not coming to Thanksgiving. I need to figure out who I am when they're not watching. I know, I tell her. Will you go? Even though I won't be there? I look at the folder on my desk labeled Quiet Victories. Madison's first day paper. Her journal publication acceptance. The notes from students she's tutored in the writing center. Yes, some battles need witnesses. They'll blame you for changing me. No, I run my finger along the folder's edge. They'll blame me for helping you become yourself. Different thing entirely. After we hang up, I add her latest email to the folder. The one where she wrote, I finally understand what you meant about the difference between a voice and an echo. I pack the folder in my satchel between copies of academic journals and student papers. Tomorrow I'll drive south to Charleston. To the family table where I once sat silent. But this time I'm bringing evidence of a different kind of legacy. One built on truth instead of appearances, on effort instead of inheritance. This time I'm bringing proof that sometimes the greatest victory is helping someone else find their voice, even if it means their first true words are no. The final confrontation with family the next day. Sunlight bounces off the brass numbers on Aunt Carol's front door. 1842 Plantation Drive. The same door I've walked through 100 times, always with a stone in my stomach. Today, the stone feels heavier. My Princeton department chair blazer still carries the crisp scent of dry cleaning. Inside the breast pocket, a folded academic certificate presses against my heart like armor. Through the window, I catch a glimpse of Madison's high school graduation photo displayed prominently on the mantel. Her Yale acceptance letter is framed beside it, though she never enrolled there. The cherrywood frame matches the one holding her Princeton acceptance, the one that arrived after she was already my student. Aunt Carol opens the door before I can knock. Her face shifts from welcome to weariness in the space of a breath. "Charlotte, how professional you look." The foyer smells of sage and butter, overlaid with Grandmother Margaret's Chanel No. 5. Voices drift from the formal living room where Brian holds court near the fireplace. His latest startup pitch carries over the classical music Mother insists on playing at every holiday. "And that's why NFTs are the future of real estate," Brian announces to a circle of nodding relatives. Madison gets it. She's already invested. I place my leather folder on the sideboard next to Mother's wedding china. There's also an old silver gravy boat that hasn't been polished in decades. Inside, Madison's award certificate waits like a loaded gun. "Charlotte," Aunt Carol's voice drips with artificial sweetness. "How's the teaching going, dear? Still grading papers at Princeton?" The room ripples with polite laughter. Uncle Robert adjusts his bow tie, the same one he's worn to every Thanksgiving since 1985. "Some of us work real jobs," he says to Carol. "Teaching's more of a calling, isn't that right, Charlotte?" "Actually." I reach for my folder. I brought something to share. "Not another academic article." Brian lifts his scotch and a mock toast. "We're here to celebrate Madison making something of herself, even if she couldn't make it today." The leather folder opens with a soft crackle. The award certificate catches the light from Aunt Carol's chandelier. It's Madison's Excellence Award from Princeton's Literature Department. My finger traces Madison's name in the recipient line, then mine as supervising faculty. Madison is certainly making something of herself. My voice is steady. She worked for this. Actually worked. The Princeton Comparative Literature Department Excellence Award. First freshman to win it in 10 years. Grandmother Margaret's hand trembles as she reaches for the certificate. Her reading glasses slide down her nose as she scans the award details. The room goes quiet enough to hear the antique grandfather clock in the hall. Madison almost failed my class. The words land like stones in still water. She wrote beautiful sentences that said nothing. Used charm instead of analysis. Counted on her name to carry her through, like it always had. Mother's wine glass clinks against her teeth. Brian's startup pitch dies mid-sentence. But she learned. I step closer to the fireplace where Madison's photos smile down at the gathering. She learned to think. To question. To write something real. That award certificate isn't about her name. It's about her mind. The silence stretches. Then Cousin Erica, barely 20 herself, starts to clap. The sound echoes against Aunt Carol's crown molding, spreading like ripples until other hands join in. Grandmother Margaret's fingers trace the embossed letters of Princeton's seal on the certificate. Over the rim of her glasses, for the first time in 35 years, I see something that might be respect. "I should go," I say, reaching for my coat. "Early class tomorrow." Mother follows me onto the porch. Her heels click against the painted boards. The air smells of wood smoke and approaching winter. She doesn't speak, just pulls me into an awkward embrace that tastes of Chardonnay and things we've never said. My phone buzzes as I reach my car. Madison's text glows in the gathering dark. They told me what you did. The stone in my stomach dissolves as I type back. Good. Now go write something real. Behind me, light spills from Aunt Carol's windows. Inside, my family studies Madison's certificate. They're seeing her name, and maybe mine, clearly for the first time. I start my car and drive away from the house that held me small for so long. I leave the silence I've carried since childhood behind on the perfectly manicured lawn. The department chair's blazer still smells of dry cleaning, but now it carries another scent. The sharp, sweet perfume of truth finally spoken. Epilogue: a new legacy. 1 week after Thanksgiving, Madison visits my Princeton office. A letter from grandmother. She hands me an envelope. Grandmother Margaret's precise handwriting reads, Charlotte, I did not sufficiently understand the profession of education. After rereading Madison's thesis, I am compelled to acknowledge the value of your guidance. As a Monroe family member, we should have provided appropriate recognition. It was a typical grandmother acknowledgement, maintaining her pride while admitting fault. I'm changing my major to literature, Madison says as she sits in the chair. I can't find my voice in economics. Father agreed to support me too. My brother Brian did. After seeing my transformation in your classes, he reconsidered. He said, I saw my daughter truly shine for the first time. Madison smiled. Witnessing his daughter's growth, he came to understand the power of education. Snow begins to fall outside the Princeton courtyard. A new season. A new beginning. My phone rings. It's my brother Brian himself. Charlotte, I was completely wrong. Madison's transformation is remarkable. I ridiculed your passion for education, and I want to sincerely apologize. His voice had lost its previous arrogance. Next year, I plan to take education courses at the local community college. It may be too late, but I want to do truly valuable work. Have you ever considered teaching? I ask Madison. Madison's eyes light up. Helping others find their own voices? Yes, I'm seriously considering it. Just like you. I pull out a brochure from my drawer. The Monroe Educational Legacy Grant. Let's start this together. A real legacy. 3 months later. Spring's arrival. A few weeks into the spring semester. Changes have come to my office. Mother's weekly phone calls are no longer obligatory. They're based on genuine interest. Charlotte, Margaret would like to formally request that you give a lecture at her literary circle. Of course, she'll provide appropriate compensation. I'll consider it, I reply. Madison now works as my research assistant. Other students look up to her. Designer dresses and tennis bracelets are things of the past. Simple black blazers and grandmother's pearls have become her new style. 5 students from Charleston want to take your classes, Madison reports. After hearing my story, they've begun seeking real learning. I take out a folder labeled Quiet Victories. It contains Madison's growth records, thank you notes from other students, and recently, letters from family members. I have something to discuss about after graduation, Madison says in a formal tone. I wait for her to choose her words. I want to become a teacher. Seriously. Like what you do. Helping people discover who they really are. The sunset wraps Princeton's Gothic architecture in warm light. Students passing by outside wave at us. That's a wonderful decision, I smile. Let's start with this program. I point to the brochure on my desk. The Monroe Educational Legacy Grant. 2 names are listed. Dr. Charlotte Monroe, Madison Monroe, BA candidate. Madison's eyes shine. We're changing our family tradition, aren't we? Yes. Not just for us, but for the generations that will follow. That night, I receive a text message from Mother. I found your old diaries in the attic. Even as a small child, you wrote, I want to be a teacher. It took us so long to understand that value. I gaze out the window. The snow is beginning to melt. Signs of a new season are visible. Madison has now become a beacon of hope for other students. and the two of us are working to pave a new path for the next generation. Sometimes the greatest victory is helping others find their own path. Madison has been freed from the bonds of the past. She's carving out her future with her own voice. And now, her journey is beginning to give hope to others as well. Success cannot be measured by social status or family approval. It lies in the courage to speak truth in silence, in the power to help others find their voice when your own has been dismissed. I file Madison's tutoring records in the Quiet Victories folder. I begin preparing for tomorrow's class. A new semester, new students, and new possibilities await. Education is about planting seeds. Madison was the first flower to bloom. And now, she herself is about to plant new seeds. The Monroe legacy has changed. Not based on appearance or status, but rooted in true learning and growth. She broke free from the chains of the past. Now she's stepping powerfully toward the future she created with her own hands. And now her journey is giving hope to others as well. Don't you have amazing people around you who overcame unreasonable situations and proved their worth? Please share this video and give someone courage. And tell us about your own comeback story in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your future is determined not by others' expectations, but by your own voice.